Rabbi Sai Azoi. The pasuk in Parashas Pekudei says, Eile Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdus. Rashi notes the fact that it says the word Mishkan twice, and he says this hints to the fact that the Beis HaMikdash twice was taken away by Hashem like a mashgon, like collateral after the destructions. This means that in the same way that a mashgon is taken away by a borrower when he doesn't pay back his dues, so too we won't get the Beis HaMikdash back until we repay our debts, so to speak, by doing teshuvah. However, there's a clear halacha stated in the Torah that a lender has to give the mashgon back to the borrower at the end of the day. If that's true, why for so many centuries have we not been given back this mashgon, the Beis HaMikdash? Why did Hashem not, so to speak, keep the laws of mashgon and give it back to us so much sooner? My high. That's not my question. That's the question of Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, also known as the Guardian of Yerushalayim. He was born in Hungary in 1849. His father died when he was only 8, and his mother sent him away to learn in yeshiva. He became a Talmid in the Ksav Sefer's yeshiva in Pressburg, where he excelled as a youngster, and he was known as an Ilui. In 1873, he followed his Rabbi, Rav Avram Shag, to Yerushalayim, where he stayed for the rest of his life. The situation to which Rav Yosef Chaim walked in Yerushalayim was very complicated. The religious people of the old Yishuv were desperately poor and internally fragmented. Christian groups were vying to establish control and convert Jews. Their control over hospitals meant that they had access to Jews when they were sick and at their most vulnerable. Secular Zionists, with plenty of funding behind them, saw Yerushalayim as being a place which would be the beginning of their future state. But the old Yidden who were living there were an archaic embarrassment in need of re-education. And then the Turkish and later British authorities, each one with their own ruling agenda, also needed to be handled carefully. Rav Sonnenfeld was not the only rabbi in town. Rabbi Shur Leib Diskin and then Rav Shmuel Salant were great elderly figures, and Rav Yosef Chaim was close to both of them. While some people refer to him simply as a kanai, that's really not accurate. He was a man of tremendous truth and principle, whilst also being extremely kind, regal and diplomatic. In fact, he came under attack many times, both from those who considered him to be too unbending and those who considered him to be too flexible. More about his life soon. Back now to his question. If the Beis HaMikdash was taken away from us twice as a mashgon, why did Hashem not, so to speak, keep his own laws of mashgon and return the Beis HaMikdash to us promptly? Rav Sonnenfeld gives a beautiful answer. In the laws of mashgon, there's actually a very important clause. The lender only needs to give the borrower back the mashgon at the end of the day if the borrower needs that item. For example, a piece of clothing which he needs to wear. However, if the borrower has no need whatsoever for the mashgon, then there's no need for the lender to give it back to him. That, explains Rav Sonnenfeld, is why Hashem has not returned to us the mashgon of the Beis HaMikdash. We don't really feel like we need it. We're enjoying our life in Gadlus, our pastimes, our occupations. There's no real yearning for the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, the mashgon stays in the hands of Hashem. Were we to yearn for it, were we to want it more, were we to be seeking all the time a brighter, richer, spiritual future, then we'd be able to lay a proper claim to get the mashgon back. That quality of yearning, of seeking improved ruchnius for Yerushalayim and for Eretz Yisrael, was such a central part of Rav Sonnenfeld's life. In 1913, he and Rav Kook undertook their famous Masa HaGadol, their journey to the north of Israel, where they went from kibbutz to kibbutz, trying to persuade the people living there to keep Shemitah and to keep Shabbos. At one particular kibbutz, the head of the committee started laughing when these eminent Rabbanim arrived, and he explained, "We're only here to settle the land and to build it up. We've got no interest in the Torah, in its laws and in its study." And his words brought Rav Kook to tears. But Rav Sonnenfeld had a different take. He stood up and said to Rav Kook in Yiddish, "Yafa Ruv, the Rabbi of Yafoi, wein nicht, don't cry." And he explained to all of the people gathered, "I want to tell you and everyone else, when Hashem gave Eretz Yisrael to Am Yisrael to begin with, he did so that they should keep his Torah. And that is the reason Hashem is returning us to the land now. This should be clear to everyone. The end of the matter will be that the land will be full of learners of Torah, of Shomrei Torah, of Shomrei Shemitah, from one end of the land to the other." He yearned for and believed in a future with better spiritual conditions for his people. He wanted the mashgon back. Chazal also tell us that the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinas chinam, baseless hatred? If so, it makes sense that love and care for fellow Yidden should help to rebuild it. Again, that's an area in which Sonnenfeld excelled. One Elul, the long-standing chazan for the Yom Narayim in Sonnenfeld shul, was nifta. They needed to find a replacement. He waited a long time before informing the Gabayim that the person who would daven from the Amud on the Yom Narayim would be the son of the chazan who was nifta. And when the Gabayim protested that this man barely had a beard, didn't have a powerful voice, Chaim told them, there'll be an almana, the almana of the old chazan, standing in the Ezra's Nashim. It'll be painful enough for her when she won't hear the voice of her husband, but at least if she hears the voice of her son, it will be somewhat of a nachama, a comfort for her. Let us all yearn that Yerushalayim itself will be comforted, and that ultimately the mashgoin of the Beis HaMikdash will be returned. If you have any feedback or stories you'd like us to cover, please email glimpsesofgadlus@gmail.com.